mixed emotions. Yes, they've got a point and a 0-0 draw in the bag, but yeah, it's pretty depressing in some ways that Newcastle just have not got that cutting edge. Hopefully that's going to change for the better very soon with a new signing coming through the door. But I think really when you look at that performance overall, Newcastle created plenty of openings. It was a bit like Aston Villa, they just could not find that clinical touch, and that for me is a worry, but it's not sort of the end of the world. I think ultimately Newcastle went into this season knowing they had the Alexander Isak problem. That hasn't gone away. It's kind of overshadowing the whole club.
Goes his ball into the middle, comes down for James, but he was arriving and he kind of hit him as he arrived at the edge of the 6-yard box, and it goes off in a way behind, and it's
No, I've got my back on £9. Give £9 that I never sent you. It's probably still working, is it? No, you said you had to open it for something else because you went to the hospital. Oh, no, yeah, that's how I've opened it to me.
Well, it's ended 0-0 here at Ellen Road. Newcastle United could not find a way past a resilient Leeds defence, but did they really test them? Only Jacob Murphy really getting a couple of shots on target. Newcastle couldn't find a way through despite throwing on a number of substitutes, high profile substitutes. Anthony Olanga, £55 million signing, could not unlock that Leeds United defence, and realistically for Newcastle, they'll probably reflect on this with mixed emotions. Yes, they've got a point and a 0-0 draw in the bag, but yeah, it's pretty depressing in some ways that Newcastle just have not got that cutting edge. Hopefully that's going to change for the better very soon with a new signing coming through the door. But I think really when you look at that performance overall, Newcastle created plenty of openings. It was a bit like Aston Villa, they just could not find that clinical touch, and that for me is a worry, but it's not sort of the end of the world. I think ultimately Newcastle went into this season knowing they had the Alexander Isak problem. That hasn't gone away. It's kind of overshadowing the whole club at the moment. The fact that Liverpool have not come in with a bid, and you know they could be stuck with a striker who doesn't want to be here. That is a big issue. That's probably a story for later on, but I think today 0-0 against Leeds, it's a point, but really not an inspiring performance for me. Well, just about to leave Ellen Road, but I thought I would give you an update on what's been said in the press conference. Eddie Howe in there asked a lot of Alexander Isak questions, which, you know, I guess a lot of them have to be asked given the amount of stories that have circulated even in the last few hours. Talk of Alexander Isak being at the training ground saying goodbye. This was relayed via the commentary on Swedish TV, but Eddie Howe saying he's got no knowledge of it, and he also said, you know, he would know if that had been said, if there had been goodbyes from Isak. And personally, I do think that Isak has been communicating with certain people, saying he still wants to go, but that's a different story in terms of, you know, it being said that it's a done deal. Newcastle insisting tonight that that isn't the case, and that this £130 million bid has not arrived. We've got 48 hours left, so there is a chance that, you know, that could be the case. But for Newcastle supporters, I think they just want an end to this saga, and today as I said, just on the final whistle there, it's just overshadowed Newcastle's season so far, in that they're a club who don't have someone who has the clinical edge. They do in terms of players coming in terms of Walter Maida, but that hasn't happened yet, and he couldn't play today. So the players that they were able to rely on today, couldn't find a way past the goalkeeper, and that has to be a concern. But when Newcastle dust themselves down after this one, it's a point, it's a clean sheet. It's 2 points on the board now after the Aston Villa game in the opening weekend of the season, and a very narrow defeat against Liverpool in between the two stalemates. But I think the best is yet to come, and I think once Newcastle do settle down, they'll know, with Walter Maida through the door and potentially another striker, there is every chance that Newcastle will push on and finally climb up that table, which feels a bit difficult at the moment. But overall, we're talking about a Newcastle team that already have quality players. They just need to gel with some new signings. So yeah, this was a tough one to take today, but it's still a point. And even Eddie Howe in his press conference saying that offensively in the final third, just not at the races, but they can improve on that, and they will improve on that. But yeah, disappointing in some ways. A couple of injury updates. Botman actually got his foot stood on by an opponent, so that's why he came off. That's been assessed. And Ramsey, another player with an issue. Ramsey going off with a swollen ankle, got a whack in the first half, didn't recover and was taken off as a precaution. But I thought actually Lewis Miley didn't do too badly. A crucial tackle at the end to help Newcastle get the point, and that's what they're going to need, that commitment across the board. So yeah, both Ramsey and Botman getting assessed. Another tough day in terms of injuries for Newcastle, but overall they leave here, I wouldn't say in good spirits, but they leave here with a point. They haven't been beaten, and they've got hopefully at least one player coming through the door, and potentially another. Eddie Howe saying in his press conference that they're still active. So we'll sign off on a positive note, potentially more signings to come in the next few days.